an amazing day of conversation around brand storytelling. And thank you, brand innovators, for this opportunity. My name is Tina Robinson. I am the Director of Brand and Agency Licensing at Jukin Media. My role is to partner with and support creative professionals as they tell their brand story through user-generated content. So real people, real experiences, real emotions. Before I forget, I just want to encourage everyone to submit their questions. If we have time, we will get to them at the end. Today, I have the honor and the unique opportunity to speak with two women leading their brands in content marketing, brands that I feel are using the power of storytelling to enact change for good. So joining us today, like John said, we have Christine White, the Director of Social and Content Marketing at Ulta Beauty, as well as Michelle Beauchamp, Vice President of Marketing at Vero Water. Welcome, Christine and Michelle.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Our topic today is the future of content and storytelling. Before we dig in, I think these days more than ever, people have a desire to know people more intimately, to better understand their experience and how it relates to where they are professionally. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about each of you and your journey to your respective role. Michelle, do you want to kick things off?
Sure. So I've spent most of my career in beverage marketing. My first role right out of undergrad school was an entry-level role with a soft drink company. Combination of being at the right place at the right time, explosive international growth. So really an exciting time to be with a company like that. So worked and traveled all around the world, Asia, Middle East, Latin America, Eastern, Western Europe, launching brands in all those countries. So that really helped sort of launch my career. Since that time, I also spent a decade with Bacardi in marketing leadership roles for a variety of brands, including Grey Goose and Saint Germain. And most recently, I'm with Vero Water. So we are an eco-friendly alternative to traditional imported bottled water. It's an entrepreneurial company, and we are a leader in our space. So it's been an exciting ride. Over the years, I've tried a few different things in between, but I love beverage brands, and I love that whole experience. So I keep finding myself coming back to it.
Awesome. And Christine, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my career in beauty. I took a role at Coty Prestige, overseeing global and US communications before social media was a thing, before Facebook even existed. So learned a lot really about the fundamentals of communicating and how to tell stories, and how to engage with media. And then, sort of bopped around a little bit, all within this space of various forms of media, both within social media as well as publishing, and largely on the beauty brand side of things, really just dabbling in, all of the facets that really speak to how to tell a story to different audiences. So a really well-rounded perspective, and even, had a couple years there where I was a blogger, before influencer was the phrase du jour. And now here I am at Ulta Beauty leading our social and content marketing group.
Awesome. Thank you both. So as we've touched upon in so many of our panels today, 2020 has thrown a wrench in all of our plans. I think Zach said earlier something like, it's the year that no one asked for. Marketing is about, brands telling the consumers a story. And through the events of this year, they've really struggled to figure out, what story to tell, what tone to take, whether or not it even makes sense to spend ad dollars amidst a global health crisis. Christine, can you talk about your approach to brand storytelling prior to 2020, and how have the events of this year affected and changed your content plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the tail end of 2018, we were going under an evolution of our brand at an equity perspective with the tagline, "The possibilities are beautiful." So really this idea that beauty is a superpower, and that it really helps you understand fundamentally how to express yourself in a multitude of ways. So a lot of that work, especially as we think about diversity and inclusion and self-expression and self-acceptance, really allowed us to set ourselves up well, as well as possible during a global pandemic, and then, a pandemic of civil unrest and social justice. So a lot of that, that groundwork in terms of laying down the evolution of our brand really helped set us up to tell the stories authentically, even leading into COVID and then into the summer as well, in terms of how to show up authentically in terms of consumers and how we connect for the values and missions that we want to continue to uphold. And then just continuing to be really authentic and transparent in our communication and in the stories that we wanted to tell.
Yeah, beauty is a superpower. I love that. When we had our conversation earlier, you talked about all the legwork that Ulta Beauty has done in building a loyal brand community. And the events of this past year have allowed you to engage with the audience in a more effective way through content. And of course, you're not going to be a part of every conversation, but there's certain conversations, to your point, with all the civil unrest that's happened, like Black Lives Matter. And you had said that that was a no-brainer. Can you talk about how Ulta Beauty used content and platforms to show up in an authentic way?
Yeah. So like I said, transparency, inclusivity, diversity is core to our mission and values. So as we moved into that time of, civil unrest and social justice, it made a lot of sense to really make sure that that was clear to our guests and to our consumers. And really understanding fundamentally the role our brand had to play in that narrative and the specific position that our consumers expected from us. So a lot of that, was represented through the work that we've been doing with our influencer network and the Ulta Beauty Collective and celebrating our Black creators, uplifting and celebrating the Black brands that we do have, and also acknowledging the work that we have in front of us in terms of where we need to go and how we need to continue those partnerships. So really, for us, it was about, the role that we currently play within the Black community and our BIPOC community, as well as, the journey that we're on. And again, showing up transparently and authentically in the communication about anywhere from, the statistics of diversity within our organization to the celebration of our Black creators, to even celebrating, moments in time like Juneteenth and, really making sure that that was conveyed authentically and that people understood, again, the role that we play, because we're not going to play a role in every conversation, but really sticking to the consistent message that we wanted to share.
And in those conversations, did you learn more about the brand community, maybe things that you didn't know before? And is there a strategic plan to leverage that insight?
So we did a lot of social listening and also a lot of asking, right? So asking and taking feedback from guests in social media through our beauty board, which is part of our consumer insights work, as well as going out and asking consumers to make sure that, we're addressing and looking at, all of the opportunity that we have to make sure that we're providing, the guest experience that we know and that we strive for every day. So a lot of it really did come from fundamentally listening and leaning in, making sure that we're hearing our guest, that we understand what it is that they're looking for from our perspective and from us, and making sure that we're able to address those concerns. So a lot of it does, come to life through content and storytelling, right? That's part of it in terms of creating the narrative, but also making to ensure that we can close the loop, not to use marketing speak, but really make sure that that's, evident in our stores where they're shopping with us, or, in the experience that they're having with us from a retail component. So the stories that we told really do need to be told throughout all aspects of our organization. So that was extremely crucial in even how we show up from a content perspective.
Yeah, and when you think about that and like balancing the brand focused social content versus the content focused on a particular product, how do you think about that?
So it's always a balance, right? But really, again, it goes back to the role that we play. So we really think about it as what is the value that we're providing to the consumer. So they definitely come to us to shop, right? We are a retailer first and foremost, but then they also need to know how to use that product. How, what inspires them about that product? What reminds, what are the memories that they have where they were using that product, right? Everybody has a lipstick or a fragrance or something that you make an emotional connection or it reminds you of a period in time. So really, how can we also think about again, those possibilities, that idea of beauty as a superpower, and really bringing it back to, yes, the very tactical product, but also the experience. So we really bring it back to value, and sort of that circle that takes.
Yeah. Now, Michelle, being that Vero Water primarily services the hospitality industry, restaurants, hotels, spas, all industries hardest hit by the pandemic, can you talk a bit about your approach to content prior to 2020 and, how it's changed and the challenges that you've faced this year?
Of course. So prior to COVID and the pandemic, a lot of our content, or most of our content, was really focused on in-depth, intimate profiles of some of our most influential clients. And these are, 3 Michelin star chefs, James Beard award-winning chefs, some of the most notable sort of restaurateurs in the industry. And, these were very professionally produced pieces where we'd actually go travel to their venue, we'd work with the chefs, they'd cook for us on location, and we do literally spend an entire day with them with Q&A and producing these really beautiful pieces of content. And the way we showed up as a brand is we understand our role as a brand in that story. So we are not the focus of that story. We are just a part of that story. We're a part of the guest experience in those venues. And so that is really how we kind of authentically weave into that story. So we had been producing these beautiful profiles, and they were a little bit more trade focused, but consumers and guests loved them as well, because any foodie is going to love to see, listen to a Michelin star chef and sort of what's behind the scenes, in their specific restaurant, or sort of what's the story of how they got to where they were. So the pandemic hit, hospitality was hit disproportionately harder, I think, than other sectors. Our clients are restaurants, hotels, cruise lines. Many of them were shut down. Many of them are still shut down. So we were very, very mindful in doing a lot of social listening in those first few weeks to really understand what the tone was that we needed to take. And what we started to see was some incredible stories coming out of these clients on how they were completely reimagining what they were doing to address sort of the new challenges of the pandemic. And from that, it emerged that we wanted to start amplifying those stories. So the Michelin star chef that was no longer, the restaurant wasn't open, but they were creating a food program for first responders. The restaurateur that is opening up a pop-up market, or the mixologist that take.
I think we lost.
Pardon me?
Oh, sorry, we lost you for a second, but you're back and we're good.
Okay. Where did you lose me?
You were talking about the restaurants finding new ways to innovate.
Yeah, so everything from pop-up markets to bottling their cocktails and delivering it to clients, Michelin star chefs who are creating meals for first responders. So we decided to start amplifying and showcasing those stories. We thought that really was the most important thing to do, to really support what they were doing. And from there, we launched a campaign that really focused on asking our community to focus on supporting their local restaurants for home delivery. So we did this very focused digital and social media campaign in major metros. So we really shifted from really doing more polished content, that sort of classic storytelling, to sort of amplifying sort of what was changing and happening in the marketplace.
And did you find that any particular platforms were most successful to that amplification strategy?
I mean, we use them all. I think Instagram is probably the platform that is probably the most prevalent right now that we're using. The Instagram stories, we're able to kind of put things together in a way that provides that content in a very sort of small bite but meaningful way to those consumers.
Yeah. Well, we all know that brands should always be reimagining the customer journey, from awareness to transaction to retention. And I think we can all agree, and we've touched upon a little bit, certainly in panels earlier today, that 2020 has kind of accelerated everything. Christine, when we spoke, you talked about Ulta Beauty working to create more of like a holistic guest journey. How do you differentiate yourself from other competitors in the beauty space, which is quite crowded, particularly as it relates to e-commerce? And then how do you use content to drive commerce?
Yeah, so I think one of the distinct advantages we have, especially within beauty, is to look at, the footprint that we have across, anywhere from mass to prestige and everything in between. So really that access to, a multitude of products in one beauty retailer really sets us up well to really think about the differentiation, especially from an overall beauty retail standpoint. And, second to that, obviously being our loyalty program that has, roughly 34 million members. So really just coupling the two to say you can get all that you need with Ulta Beauty fundamentally allows us a lot of storytelling opportunities and really thinking about how to articulate that from a content perspective. So, for us, it really started with the fundamental business differences. And then obviously from a content perspective, how do we continue to reinforce the love and loyalty people have for Ulta Beauty, right? A lot of it does stem from, our rewards program. And it is, the crux of our business, and our guest is at the center of all of that. So really it is a celebration of them. It's a celebration of why, they love to shop with us, and to ensure that we get to celebrate all of the amazing brands that we're able to give people access to. So a lot of it is the combination of those three, coupled with, things that are relevant to our consumers in any moment in time. So you can take, and think about beauty at home and the opportunity and all of the access that they have to our services teams virtually and the products that they can have in the comfort of their home, or to learning about textured hair, and the products to use, and even education for people that don't have textured hair, and to continue to create that dialogue and that thoughtful conversation, because we really do believe that beauty brings people together. So really that's how we think about, distinction from competition, and how content can help elevate that.
And Michelle, same question for you, because water is a very competitive space as well. How do you differentiate Vero water with all of the other brands in the industry, and how are you using content to drive e-commerce?
So, I think what's unusual about Vero water, or unique, is that our direct competitors are really competing with us in sort of the food service business. We don't operate like that, because we actually enable our clients to ultra purify bottle, fill, chill on site and on demand. We're eco-friendly. They reuse the bottles, they sanitize them. So we are a very green product. But we don't behave and operate like that. So we are relentlessly focused on being a luxury brand. So we consider ourselves, our competitors, as the imported bottled waters. So these are the brands that you'll see typically show up on the red carpet. They have really big sponsorship budgets, but we still consider ourselves in that space, and we live and work and operate and focus on that space. So I'll give you an example. We were the exclusive water at the Vanity Fair Oscar party. So right before the pandemic hit, we went to the red carpet in Hollywood, and we showed up at a series of events, including that one. And there are a lot of brands, established brands out there that are writing sort of these big sponsorship checks, but also they were not sort of operating in an authentic way in those spaces, like photobombing celebrities on the red carpet, just doing things that the brand should be there to enhance the experience. So we went in there with the story that we had for Vero water. They were looking for an eco-friendly alternative. They really wanted to get away from single-use plastic. And we showed up with everything from a limited edition bottle for that event. So everything we did was so that our brand would be just a part of that experience, a very authentic part of that experience. And I think that's one of the things that really differentiates us as a challenger brand, is that we show up in that way.
When you talk about the award season of next year is going to look quite different. I'm curious, how are you planning for the next 6 months as we power through holiday and award season? What does that look like at Vero Water?
Well, I mean, we're going to continue to support our clients and do what we do. I know award season has been pushed out a few months. I believe it's been pushed out from February to April. So we'll see what that looks like, what the world looks like at that time. I know that a lot of brands have been showing up in a creative way with private events, with virtual events. So we will definitely pivot and shift to address whatever that world looks like, 3 to 6 months from now. But it's something that we look at every single day. It's, you wake up and you say, okay, what's happening, and how can we address? How can we add value? And that's what we're doing pretty much every day.
And Christine, how do you plan? I mean, holiday season is a huge season for the beauty business, but we don't know if we're spending the holidays with our loved ones or we're going to be in lockdown again. So what does that look like for your team?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Michelle's point, it's, you wake up and, what's going on and how are you going to show up for your consumer? And so a lot of it is, right, it's planning for what you can and cannot anticipate, and just remaining flexible. So for us, beauty is going to play a part in people's lives, whether we're together or not, right? So I think that's the beauty of the space, the retail space, and really thinking about moments of self-care or moments of glam, and being able to bring people all of that, to be able to flex as needed. So everybody's situation is going to look very different, for a lot of reasons this holiday season. So it really is creating that story and creating that content where people can have a personal connection with it, because they can understand that that's their situation, but also enjoy, enjoy from afar things that they may not be involved in this year, and still being able to take away something from that.
Yeah. This year, although it's been, traumatic in so many ways, it's also brought about quite a bit of opportunity. Michelle, can you talk about the opportunity that Vero Water has seen as far as content storytelling? You touched upon helping your restaurants find, ways to innovate as fewer people go out to eat, and amplifying the work that they have done. Are there any other opportunities that you've seen?
Well, I mean, in terms of opportunities for us, we've definitely innovated to sort of meet the needs of the pandemic. So we had some innovations in our pipeline that we rapidly accelerated to sort of address the needs of our clients, including sort of touch-free technology and things of that nature. We had always considered ourselves sort of a relationship selling organization in terms of the way we dealt with our hospitality clients, and we shifted that a little bit more to, we're actually going with e-commerce for the first time. We've always thought that it was about relationships and sitting down and meeting and talking to our clients, which we still do virtually for the most part now, but we have taken advantage of the opportunity to innovate to sort of meet those needs. In terms of the content and the storytelling, as we said before, every day there's an opportunity for a different story. I mean, I never cease to be surprised or amazed by the ingenuity of people and sort of what they're doing out there. So, I definitely expect to wake up tomorrow and see some amazing content or something that we can sort of build on.
Yeah. Christine, we talked a little bit about conscious beauty, which I'm really excited about, and I wondered if you can share with the audience more about what Ulta Beauty is doing in that space.
Yeah, so Conscious Beauty is a form that the organization just launched that really brings, this idea of choices for yourself and your world, and giving people access to all of the things that matter to them. And that's going to look very different for each individual. So it's really comprised of, 5 core pillars: cruelty-free, vegan, sustainable packaging, positive impact. So really looking at all of the ways in which people want to engage with product, whether that be clean and looking at ingredients and made without, to not being tested on animals, to vegan, and or to how do you even recycle, because beauty is a major player in the conscious movement, and really wanting to look beyond just this idea of clean beauty, but looking into giving people access to choice, giving people access to make decisions for themselves, because what works for one individual doesn't work for another. And that's, I think, really the beauty of conscious beauty, is it meets people where they are in their journey and allows them to have that flexibility in how they want to engage with product in their lifestyle.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, it's so great to talk to brands that are really using the power of storytelling to enact good in this world. And it sounds like being environmentally conscious is something that we can all agree on, and it affects everyone. And seeing your, unique approaches to being part of that change is really awesome. Um, so last week, Brand Innovators celebrated women in marketing, and it's not often that I get to talk to two successful women at the same time. So I'd like to use the opportunity to perhaps pave the way for young female marketers who are looking to get leadership positions. So Michelle, I have to ask, do you have any advice for females in the industry?
Well, number one, women should support one another. I found a lot of strength in that. A little piece of advice that I'd like to give is something my father told me a long time, and it's taken me a bit of time to figure it out. He said to me that you need to put yourself in a position to be lucky. And what he meant by that is really be fully engaged, like go out and try new things, meet new people, take those chances, put yourself out there. Because if you don't, you're not even in the consideration set, and surround yourself with people who are going to be supportive and champion one another. I think, as women in the workplace, I remember early on in my career, there was, a little bit of edge, a little bit of competition. And, I've found that we have sort of lifted one another up by being advocates for one another. So I feel really strongly about that.
Yes, awesome. And how about you, Christine?
Yeah, so a while ago in my career, a mentor of mine told me that, when I was considering some changes and maybe potentially leaving beauty altogether, was that not every step in what you're doing needs to be up to build your career, right? So it's this idea of really having a vision for the way you want to affect the world, and that will ultimately lead you to the work that you want to do. So for me, it's really about investing in those experiences that help you to grow and really feed your passion. And ultimately that's going to lead you to, becoming a leader, because it's really fundamentally in what it is that you want to set ahead for yourself.
Yes, definitely. And being open to, and you both touched upon that, is open to the possibility, because you never know where the road will lead you. So thank you both for sharing. And I think we have a few minutes for questions. The first question I have is, when it comes to communicating with your consumers, how do you think about brand purpose, and how does that impact your approach to marketing? Michelle, you want to grab that one first?
Sure. So our brand purpose is doing well by doing good. So our entire purpose is to be that eco-friendly alternative to eliminate all the waste associated with single-use plastic or metals. But the whole idea of doing well and doing good is something that really runs through everything that we do, how we show up and what we say and what we do. So that's really the focus, our brand purpose, and it's how we amplify that message through the various channels. And it's everything from, experience, from things as basic as, how the wait staff even approaches that consumer and what the story is that they tell and how we're a part of that, to the things that we do just to sort of speak directly to them from the brand.
Okay, thank you. And Christine?
Yeah, so like I said when we kicked off, Ulta Beauty has been on this journey from functional to purpose driven. So it's been really enlightening to be able to, really bring our consumers along in that journey, right? And recognizing that it very much is a journey. So it goes back to really living your values, right? And not just telling your values, but really it's that full circle of how do you show up, both physically as well as the words on the page. So for us it's the beautiful advertising that we're putting out there in terms of that expression and what that looks like, but it's also leaning into our communities and making sure that the partnerships that we're creating, the community involvement that we have, and even as we think at the store level across our retail footprint, that we're able to really lean into those communities and make sure that what we're doing and how we're acting is also reflected as well, with the day-to-day interaction that we have with our guests.
Yeah. So the other question is, are there brands out there that you feel are doing a good job in being authentic in their storytelling? Christine, I'll let you grab this one first.
Yeah, so we talk about this a ton, and you can look at it in a lot of different ways. But I think Outdoor Voices, which is a fashion apparel brand, has done a lot in that space in terms of really leaning into their brand identity and who they are, being relevant to their consumer, and really leading with their purpose. I think if you look at there's quite a few big brands out there as you think about social justice, but that really have showed up authentically because it's what they've been doing the entire time. Patagonia, Ben and Jerry's, come to mind in terms of, just leaning in even more in terms of what they had already been doing and the mission that they had already been sharing. So those are just a couple examples off the top of my head.
And Michelle, do you have any favorites?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the work that Nike's done around social justice. It's really I'm incredibly impressed and touched by it. I think it's very authentic, and I think it resonates with a lot of people.
Same. And it's also pretty brave because once you put yourself out there and your opinion out there, you deal with the consequences. So I agree with you there. One other question. Working from home and distancing have altered consumer media and digital habits in many ways. What are you seeing when it comes to those types of behavioral changes, and how are they adapting? We've touched upon this quite a bit, but maybe, Michelle, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Well, I mean, for us, with everyone working from home, there's definitely been a bit of a shift to sort of home delivery of things and bottles and plastic. So what we're sort of predicting is as things eventually get back to normal, the whole idea of being sort of environmentally conscious is going to be back in the forefront of consumers' minds again, and we're going to be ready for that. So I think there's been sort of a temporary shift with sort of everyone at home. They're doing everything at home. They're consuming content at home. They're doing their meetings from home, and they're getting everything delivered at home. And so for us as an eco-friendly company, we sort of watched that shift, but we're fully prepared for sort of when everyone kind of wakes up and looks around and says, wow, we've had a lot of stuff delivered at home. It's created a lot of waste. Let's start looking at our eco-friendly and environmentally conscious brands again.
Yeah. And Christine, you actually had brick and mortar stores, so your plan has shifted drastically. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah. So obviously, beauty is a very tactile experience. So even though our stores are open, our testers continue to be unavailable to the population. So we really need to bring that experience virtually to them. So tools like Glam Lab in our app allow people to try on the product, whether they're at home or in the store, so that they can make decisions on purchase wherever they might be. Things like our one-to-one beauty advisor. So again, a lot of our services are not able to be offered at this time. So being able to have access to someone in your home one-on-one to go through, whether it's your skin, your hair, makeup, and having access to an individual that can help you with that. And then from a content perspective, obviously we've seen a huge surge in live content. And so thinking about things like bringing masterclasses online and being able to give people the content again, through their phone or on their laptop, via our site or our social channels. And then also thinking about video, right? So obviously a huge surge in video activity. So being able to roll out longer form episodic video series, on focuses like skin or hair are some of the things that we're also sort of pivoting to that we may not have done, if COVID had not happened, but really seeing this need and desire for even longer form content and not even as snackable as sort of what we were seeing prior to the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, I've appreciated the Halloween makeup tutorials every day. I think we have time for one last question. Reaching Gen Z isn't about having a solid TikTok strategy. What other types of new media and what content should brands be leveraging to reach a younger audience? Michelle.
I mean, for us, it's showing up at the places where they want to be. So we've always focused on, what is the sort of the up and coming sort of venue, restaurant, chef. So we follow that very closely to see what that group of consumers are following, and that's where we want to position our brand. So in order to even be part of their conversation, we have to sort of get the brand into that account and then sort of be part of that experience. So that's where we focus, sort of to begin that conversation.
Yeah. And Christine?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we've had quite some success with Gen Z from a retail footprint perspective. But, for us, really, it is fundamentally understanding how they engage with our brand first. We understand that they want to support brands with purpose and that brands that stand for something. So really looking at ourselves first and making sure we can show up authentically there for them. Obviously, with beauty, right, it's really having access and accessibility to a large footprint of product available to them, as well as then the education of how to use it. Yes, TikTok is important, but I think even more so than TikTok, right, is really understanding fundamentally, what they are going through at any period of time and really showing up with the content that speaks to them. So whether it's TikTok or another platform, certainly, really it is leaning into and understanding the culture that they're living in right now and what they're responding to.
Yeah. I see John, so I think that is our cue to wrap. But I just want to thank you both for your time today and your insight. And I'm really excited to see what both of your brands do over the course of the next year. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, John.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you all so much, Michelle, Christine, Tina. It's a fantastic session.
Thank you.
Michelle, I think that you really summed it up the best and really summed up the day, is that every day there is a new story. And like, we can't wake up to see what's going to happen tomorrow at least on and see how we could be part of each other's lives, because it is a more intimate setting. We do want authenticity that does have to come through the messaging of our advertisers and our clients and the content that we're viewing, and everything is tying together more now than it ever has. So thank you very much. It was a great session and a great day. I just also want to thank all of our other speakers for joining today. I personally took a lot from each one of the sessions, between the right moments of self-care versus glam, what Christine said, going back throughout the